It's almost 5 years since you've been in the Ireland squad. So what's it been like as an experience? A few more chapters left, obviously.
Hopefully a few more chapters left. But definitely the progress I've seen over the last 5 years has been, it's been amazing in so many different ways. And I think the build up to the Georgia game is it's a testament to the work that's gone on and off the field. And I think even for yourselves, like the interest we have from journalists and the media that's been another little push in the right direction for us as well. But any time that you're called into camp to represent your country is always a huge honor. And from the first time to now, it still gives me the same little buzz.
A lot of teams in the European Championships are naming their squads around now. Will you watch the competition this summer? And if so, does that just spur you on to make sure that Ireland are at the next major tournament?
Yeah, I think there's no getting away that we'll be watching it, but there'll be a lot of, what ifs or what could have been. I think with it being in England, and I suppose a lot of us having, it being so close to us, and I think having the chance that we did and, unfortunately missing out, I think it's only going to be a motivator for us in the long term. And I think using that little bit of disappointment will always push us on in the right way. And I hope that, we never forget how we felt after, I suppose, the Ukraine game. That was probably the one that let us down. And I think long term, it definitely will be something that we can use as the motivation. And hopefully then it's something that we can put right.
Does that game still come up? I know it's one that is always looked back on, but is it mentioned much in the build up to certain games?
Like in many ways, no, but I do remember in the last camp, Vera did mention that she didn't want us to keep drawing back to this game, because I suppose in many ways it does, between players and all comes up. But our focus has solely been now on this new campaign, and there is no point in us looking back at past campaigns, because you could easily turn around and say, 10 years ago we could have done this and this. Time has moved on and we need to move on from it. I think that everybody has, but I think that it's definitely used in that incentive of, remember how we felt at that moment, and as a team collectively, let's try our best to better that.
And you'd be hoping to get a run against Georgia, given the last game, and you obviously scored. Will you use the same celebration if you score?
Don't know how the Georgia crowd will take to the Cristiano one, so I might need to rethink that one.
Okay, thanks, Amber. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Aaron Clark.
Hey, Amber. As Philip said, you've been in the squad for quite a while. Talk to us about, you made the decision to leave the Gaelic football behind. We've seen others go the other way. Talk to us about that and the rewards you've had in the years since, moving to Germany and the international caps and goals.
Yeah, I don't think I can ever, of course, there's times when Donegal are doing well. I always look back and I'm like, oh God, I'd love to have been playing in that game, or I'd love to have been in Croke Park. But I think the opportunities I've got and the experience I've seen over the last 5 years, the people I've met as well through football, the experiences with international games, international goals, being in so many high profile matches, and pursuing a World Cup ambition is something that any player in the right mind would make the right decision in that regard. And I think every day I'm still trying to come to terms with it, because it's still, for me, it's still, I'm one of the luckiest people alive to get to have this experience to represent Ireland. And as I said earlier, hopefully we're a long way to go yet, but certainly enjoying every single minute of it.
In terms of this camp, you talked a little bit about the disappointments of the last one. You can see there just seems to be a different atmosphere in this one compared to, say, the last campaign for the Euros, the World Cup campaign. Everything seems a lot more upbeat. I think with the sponsors coming in, everything is a lot more stronger. It's a lot more positivity. You see, even as you said, the media turnout. How do you as players, it must be a great appreciation when you see the things that go in and behind the scenes to push you on.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people to thank for that. I think you have to look, I think straight away you have to look at the players. The players' attitudes have been spot on with that. And then you have the likes of Gareth, who's put on so much work in behind the scenes then to convince people to trust this team, get on board with this team. And, suddenly then they get on board and they see exactly what they're in for. And we are very, very lucky. There are so many diverse personalities on this team, fantastic women for all different parts of Ireland, all coming from different backgrounds, and yet we're all collectively going after one goal. And I think there's so many people in that, the staff as well have been instrumental in that. They're always there to motivate us and to push us in the right way. And I think, long term, I think we will only continue to blossom from that. And I really hope that I will still be a part of that.
It's 12 years since the under-17s got to a World Cup in Trinidad and Tobago. We've had a couple of underage teams get the European Championships. How important for the game, the women's game in Ireland, is it that we see this team continue on the trajectory that they're going and finally break that curve for a major tournament?
Yeah, I think it's crucial, because not only will that, that won't just break the mold of, we've never accomplished that, now that we have. It will also then, for the younger players getting involved, you'll have more girls getting involved because they want to be part of this special. I watched Ireland at the World Cup. It was brilliant. Mum, I want you to take me down to the local girls team. And suddenly then they're part of an under-17 team that's qualifying for a European Championship and 19s. And I think you have to look at the interest and that grows from that. So yes, of course, it's great for us, if we can achieve the goal of a World Cup. But, I think the knock-on effect for the younger generation is much more beneficial than, us doing it. Because the interest will just grow, and then suddenly then you have more teams, you have more players, you have more selection then of players, and I think then that's where you have to take it like that. And hopefully then, as you said about the the under-17s, 12 years ago, but you'd really hope that over the next 12 years we have a lot more teams can say the same thing.
Last one from me. It's quite a long camp in Turkey before heading to Georgia. How do you remain focused that it's business only, because it's quite an extensive way before the Georgia game?
Yeah, like we were just kind of saying on the breakfast, a few of us, that it is definitely a little bit different to what, how we've stayed in before. The hotel obviously we're staying at is very, very busy at the minute. There's a lot of tourists and a lot of people on their holidays, but at the end of the day, we all know we're here to play football. Luckily enough, we have 2 games to look forward to, but of course the Georgia game is the most important thing. And we had our time off at the end of the season, and we are now switched solely at focusing on the game. And I think when you see the players that are here, you've no fear of anybody getting ahead of themselves.
Brilliant. Cheers, Amber. Best of luck.
Thanks, Ned.
How's it going, Amber?
Hello, David.
One of the points you made there about kind of just the different characters in the squad and different stories they have, and just obviously from different parts of the country and even abroad as well. Like, has that for you kind of broadened your own horizons, and for yourself as a person kind of made you kind of, I don't know, open your mind a little bit too?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think when, you come into camp, and even though there's been people here that have, I've been in 5 years, and a lot of the faces are very, very familiar, like you can still have a very interesting conversation with every single person. And I think as well with the younger players coming in, you also get to know, their thoughts and opinions about different things as well. And I think collectively, there is no better group of people in the world than Irish people. I 100% believe that. And I think being in Germany, sometimes you do miss out on that wee bit of Irish crack. And, thankfully now when I come into camp, there's plenty of it. Maybe too much at times, but I think that's also an important side of it. And I think for anybody, it's good to be in the environment of these people, because there's never a dull moment, as they say.
But is that one of the things, maybe even with sport, but obviously with football as well, that maybe you end up striking up relationships and bonds with the type of people who maybe otherwise you might not have come across?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think that, you cross paths with people, and you'd never in a million years have put yourself in this position that, 10 years ago, I never would have saw that this would have been where I was spending this, June preparing for a World Cup qualifier. I would never have said it was going to be with this group of people, but, thankfully then we're here and you get to see it. And there's a lot of people here that I really do hope that, they're people that can stay in my life for a long, long time.
And but just on that team then, is there people who are personalities who maybe you might have thought, I'll never click with them, or I'll never have a bit of crack with them, but then just somehow naturally it just happens to be?
No, the Donegal people are easy people to get on with.
Oh, bother, go on, take it easy.
Anyway, next, hand up there, Sean, is it? Sean O'Connor.
Hi, Amber, how's it going?
Not too bad.
Just you came on in that Georgia game, the record win and scored, but how difficult is it to just block that out and not get too far ahead of yourselves for the World Cup qualifier?
Yeah, because we know firstly that every game is different. I think there was COVID cases in the Georgia game, that probably aided us a little bit. But this game is going to be a completely different game to turn around to. And as Claire mentioned earlier, the players here, there's not going to be anybody that lets you get your feet too far off the ground. And I think that we know that with, looking at the other games, a lot of the teams that, came here, a game was put up to them, and we don't expect any different Monday week.
I think it's a month since your last game in Germany, and it's been 5 or 6 weeks for some of the others. How difficult is it to get the team back up to that match fitness?
Yeah, I think that's a challenge that we're all kind of in the same boat. But, as I said earlier, you have a lot of professional people here who are very professional on and off the field. It's not just, that they play football for a living. It's how they dedicate their lives to getting themselves right. And when you have an international game in June, you're not lying on your backside until the day before. You're looking after yourself as best you can. You're trying to get yourself up to speed. And thankfully, we've a long camp. So between now and the Georgia game, there'll be a lot of hard work done. And, I think by the end of that, we might not be exactly 100%, but we'll be as close to it as possible.
I suppose the Turkey training camp and the Philippines friendly is really important to get used to the heat as well.
To be honest with you, I don't think I'll ever get used to this heat. It's not, it's not pleasant at all, in my opinion anyway. Now, the rest of them are some days and they'll enjoy it a wee bit more probably.
Nice one. All the best. Thank you.
Mark McCadden.
How you doing? How are you, Amber?
Hello, Mark.
Come here, just tell us a little bit about the season you just had. Obviously, Cologne, you stayed up. Was that the aim, and were you happy with what you achieved?
Yeah, I think ultimately the aim was to stay up and avoid the relegation. But I think we outdid ourselves in many ways that we kind of well above it, and I think that we definitely could have finished with a couple more points, and there's a few games that we were a little bit close to as well. But I think we definitely achieved what we set out to do. But that was again a testament to Cologne. They've had a project for the last few years, and it's been really backed, and they've brought the players in that they needed to compete in the Bundesliga. And I think hopefully over the next few years that they continue to do that. And I don't think there's any doubt that Cologne will be one of the best women's teams in Germany, because I think that they have the right people involved, and the ambition is in the right direction as well.
And how did you find the standard yourself? Obviously there's a lot of top Champions League quality teams there now. How did you find it?
Yeah, honestly, I loved every minute of it. It was very diverse, and even you talk about the Champions League teams, but even when you look a little bit lower down the table, there's some absolutely top quality players in every single team that you play against. So it makes you that you have to think that little bit quicker, you have to react that little bit quicker, you have to play that little bit quicker. And I think that's only going to help every player that gets involved in that environment. And, again, very lucky to have played against the likes of Bayern Munich and Wolfsburg, and now Frankfurt have also qualified for the Champions League, and, riddled with top German internationals and other top internationals from other countries. And I think that getting to play against them, you really do learn that it's tough to get all the way.
Will we see a different kind of Amber Barrett at all after that experience, after playing at that level against quality defenders?
I hope so. I definitely think now, if I go back to how I was in the first year to now, I think there's a huge improvement that I see myself, and I hope now when I get the chance to play that's can also come through as well. Or else it would have been a big waste of time, but I don't think it was. But I think certainly being exposed to that high pressure environment all the time, training every day, playing against top opposition, I think it's only going to better you in the long run.
Super. Thanks a million. Best of luck.
No bother, Mark.
Any other remaining questions for Amber?
Yeah. Hi, Amber. Mark Gallagher from Neil.
Hello, how's things?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
Sweating.
Did you get home to Donegal after the season?
I did. I needed it. I needed a wee break.
Yeah. And you didn't go to the Ulster final, did you?
No, I watched the Ulster final at home. Gareth told me those questions about Donegal GAA weren't allowed on this interview.
Okay, well, there were my only questions, so I see you didn't bother going to it now.
No, I didn't. I wasn't able to go to the game. Watched it though. Not great.
And just I know Mark asked you about Cologne. I remember talking a couple of years ago when you were just getting settled there. Do you feel a lot more settled there now? Do you feel?
Yeah,
home?
yeah, 100%. I think when you get the little instead of the language, and I think that's the biggest help. And when you get the language, then that was probably the biggest. That was the biggest for me at the start was the biggest difficulty, because everything was, German's it is a difficult language, and also like it's, you're being exposed to that straight away, and it's kind of sink or swim kind of attitude for them over there a lot of the time. But I think as soon as you get a wee general gist of everything, then I think everything else takes its course then.
Are you fluent now?
No, not fluent, but I can order a coffee, and that's most important.
Yeah, you're still second to training. Remember you telling me before you're second to training. And
Yeah. Like when you're in the training, like you speak away, like, because it's not that complicated. I think football's a universal language anyway, so that's just how it is.